Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk with Chris Godinez. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy, your city, Psychology Today will pop up. Click on that and it will have all of the therapists in your area. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Also, I need to do a trigger warning on this video. This video is going to be dealing with some pretty intense topics. We are going to be talking about domestic violence and sexual abuse, including incest. So I just want to let you guys know that this is going to be a trigger warning. It is probably going to trigger the heck out of you, so be aware. Also, if any trolls show up on this page, please do let me or my intern know, and we will get rid of them because I am not accepting that. That is not okay because this is a serious topic. Okay, there is that. All right, so a couple of housekeeping things, and we'll just get rocking and rolling on this topic. Housekeeping. So I am having my first book signing at Changing Hands in Tempe, Arizona at 7 p.m. At Changing Hands, which is on McClintock and Guadalupe in Tempe, Arizona, March 23rd. March 23rd, I will be there. So please come. I would love to see you guys. I would love to be able to put names with faces and faces with names and all that sort of good stuff. I will be signing and doing a little bit of a lecture on my book. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. Don't know where the camera is. There it is. So I'll probably do about a half an hour of lecture, and then I'm going to leave the rest of the time for questions and signing the book because I know there's a lot of questions out there. The next book signing, okay, if you guys would, pretty please, sweetheart darlings, loves of my lives, would you please share stuff to your family and friends? If this is helping you, I can guarantee you it's going to help other people because, you know, people don't always talk about abuse. People don't always talk about domestic violence. They certainly don't talk about sexual abuse. If these videos are helping you, please share them. Please share them. Please share them to as many people as you possibly can. My evil plan is to get as many people educated on this topic as possible so that when a narcissist walks into your life, you can see them coming a mile and a half away and you can just simply sidestep them and not have to deal with them. That's my evil plan. So please share these videos with as many people as you possibly can. Also, the next book signings after this will be in Atlanta. If you are not in the Atlanta area, but you know somebody who is, shoot them an email, shoot them my video, tell them to come. If you know somebody who is being abused, or if you suspect somebody is being abused, or you have family or friends in the Atlanta area and you think that they would benefit from the lecture, just send them this. Send them this. Please share. Please share. Please share. Okay, so then in Atlanta, I will be at Postman Books on, hold on, getting the dates. Click, 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 click. The 21st, April 21st, I will be at Postman Books, and I will also be at Tall Tale Books. So I believe the time is between 1 and 3 at Postman Books on the 21st, April 21st, and then I will be at Tall Tale Books between 6 and 7, and then on the 22nd, I will be doing a lecture at the Smyrna, oh God, I hope I'm saying that right, Smyrna, Georgia Community Center. You can get tickets on Eventbrite, Eventbrite. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in Eventbrite, Atlanta, Chris Godinez, and it will pop up all of my events that are going to be coming into town. So that would be great. Okay, so, where was I? Okay, so to recap, if you know somebody in the Atlanta area or you know somebody that would benefit from this, please share these videos with them. Let them know to go to Eventbrite and look up the events. And the book signings are free. Obviously, you come in, you buy a book, yeah, I'll sign it, and we can chit chat and all that sort of good stuff because I love to talk to people, so that would be cool. And then, like I said, Smyrna, Georgia on April 22nd, and I believe it's between 1 and 3 or 12 and 3. I think we're also doing a VIP thing with 10 people, so it's a little bit extra, but the tickets for the event are thrown in, and you can come and talk to me with, you know, a group of 10 other people, and it'll be like a little intimate coffee and donuts or coffee and croissants or coffee and no donuts. I don't know, whatever. So we haven't quite figured that out yet, but you can go to Eventbrite and find out that information. Okay, there is all that. All right, let us dig into today's very serious topic. So, okay. So, all right, there has been so much discussion. I've had a lot of people writing into me and talking about their experiences with their abuser, whether the abuser was a parent or whether the abuser was a romantic partner. And a lot of it is sexual abuse. So I wanted to cover this topic again. So somebody was asking about, what is it? Rape by deception. So let's start with that, and then we're going to move into the more, I mean, this is serious, but it's all serious, but I'm going to move into the more serious stuff. We'll start with that. So rape by deception, is it legal? Well, technically, no, but prove it. That's the problem. It's like, you know, in the old days, you could sue somebody for not following through on a marriage contract. I don't think that's valid anymore. And basically what rape by deception is that somebody comes in and pretends to be one way and then flips on a dime once they get what they want, and they're peace out, they ghost. So this is what not nice, not good karma people do, is that they present this story. Oh, sure, I'm not married. Oh, sure, I don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, sure, you know, I'll marry you. I want to be in a relationship with you. You're my soulmate, blah, 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 blah. And in actuality, all they want to do is get you into bed. And then they get you into bed, they get what they want. They either continue with the Hoover and hook you into an abusive relationship, and then you're screwed, or they ghost you and they're peace out. So it kind of depends on what is going on. Okay, so that is rape by deception. Is it legal? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. You would have to go talk to an attorney, but I don't think you can prove it, because it's a he said, she said situation, you know? So, and this happens in heterosexual relationships. It happens in homosexual relationships. Somebody just wants to get into bed, and they will tell whatever story they need to in order to do that. Now, here's where it gets really weird. Narcissists seem to be obsessed with virginity. I don't get it. I don't want to. It's weird. And so, especially if they find that somebody is still a virgin, that's when they do the rape by deception thing, because they want to be the first. And it's a big thing to them. So, and then they'll ghost or they'll abuse, and then you end up leaving them because they're not really who they said they were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they do seem to be very obsessed with the whole being a virgin thing, which I don't personally understand, but there it is. And okay, now we're going to slide into some heavier subjects. I'm not sure how I want to attack this, because there's so many things to cover. What narcissists will do is that they will enter a relationship and they will absolutely pretend to be one way when they're really another. So for example, narcissists can go one of two ways. Hold on just a second. I got to take some water here. My little cup that I love, which I finally found again. So what they'll do is they'll pretend to be, let's say, for example, the target of abuse is 24 comments. How come I'm not seeing anything? That's really weird. Ah, there they are. Hello, comments. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me catch up on the comments here. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Okay. Okay, sorry. I'm just, because I just saw, I was like 25 comments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't see any comments. And then I had to click on the comments. So, all right. Thank you guys for sharing. I truly appreciate it. Okay. So they will, so for example, let's say the target of abuse is very sensual and very sexual. The abuser will appear to be as interested in sex and sensuality as the target of abuse is. So again, mirroring. Sexually, they're mirroring you. They're mirroring who you are and where you are and what you like and all that sort of good stuff. And then once the relationship is cemented and they've got you, then suddenly the sex dries up. Totally dries up. So that is what they do. It's like they present one way sexually, and then when they've got you, they flip and they are who they really are. Or conversely, the possibilities are endless, unfortunately. Conversely, they will appear to be very respectful when they get together with you. You know, oh, no, let's wait. You know, I respect you as a man. I respect you as a woman. I respect you as a partner, blah, 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 blah. As the abuse continues, however, suddenly rape becomes part of their repertoire. So suddenly forcing sex on the target when the target is exhausted, when the target is starving, when the target is, you know, overwhelmed, when the target is, you know, suddenly becomes part of their abuse handbook. And unfortunately, that is part and parcel of abuse. It does not happen in every single narcissistically abusive relationship, but it happens in a good majority of them. So suddenly it will be, you know, their wants, their needs, their everything is utmost. And if you reject them, if you say no to sex, they will fly into a rage. They will start throwing things. They will start destroying property. They'll go harm a pet. They'll go harm a child. They'll go harm a car. They'll slash tires. There's a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So yeah, sex suddenly becomes a weapon in the relationship. And it can become a weapon either by demanding sex at inappropriate times. You know, some of the stories I could tell you would just absolutely, yeah. So like, for example, they'll demand sex while the child is in the room, old enough to know what's going on, or they'll demand sex, you know, when the partner has been sleep deprived and is exhausted, and if it's a male, cannot get it up because they're exhausted because they've been screamed at for days and days and days and days and days, and then they will sit there and berate them and say that they're gay and all these horrible things. I mean, not being gay is not horrible, but if you're not gay and being told you're gay by your partner as an insult, that's abuse. Does that make sense? So they will do that. They will say and do things like that to use sex as a weapon, and or they will withhold sex. So say, for example, you're very sensual and sexual and you want to be having sex, right? Well, they'll be like, you're this, you're that, you're a nympho, you are overly sexual, you're a pervert, you know, and then just the insults go on. I mean, it's really, truly insane. How come I am not seeing my comments? That is really disturbing. There we go. All right. Got it. All right. My stepdad wanted to be and was the first. Okay. Whew, boy, we jumped into that one a little faster than I thought we would. You are not alone. You are not alone. I just want to make this very, very, very clear. So what will happen in dysfunctional families, and especially toxic dysfunctional families, okay, is that, and this happens with narcissist mothers as well as narcissist fathers. With fathers, it seems to be a little more common or a little more reported, but it does also happen to men by their narcissist mother. So what happens is that the stepdad or the dad, whoever the narcissist is, whoever the abuser is, who wants to be the first, wants to be the one to have sex with you before anybody else because they are obsessed with virginity. Dog face banana patch. This is one of those ones where I'm just like, this is truly fucked up. So in a dysfunctional family, there are roles, okay? There are the golden child, the ignored middle child, the comedic baby, the scapegoat, the black sheep, et cetera, et cetera. In truly, truly messed up families, there is the second mom, the second dad. They're the ones that are caring for the little ones. And in really, really, really messed up families, you've got the second wife, the second husband, okay? The narcissist does not view targets, no matter who they are, as people. You've got to get this through your head, guys. I love you all dearly, and I really need you to get this, because this is the scariest thing that I hear over and over and over from targets of abuse. Really? They're never going to change? Really? They don't get better? Really? I want them to be better. Okay, that's great. We would love everybody on the face of the planet to like pull their head out and be normal human beings. Psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, never going to be normal. Never. Never, 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 never. They do not change. They do not get better. They get worse with age. So in really messed up dysfunctional families, they view the targets of abuse, whether that is a child, a pet, a spouse, a friend, whatever, because remember, there is no there as an object. That is it. That is it. We are not people to them. We are not real feeling human beings. They cannot relate to us or to animals as sentient beings because they don't have that emotion cog there. There is no there. I cannot say that enough. And that is what makes them dangerous. And so when you are dealing with a sexual predator who is a step parent or who is a parent who is demanding to be the first, the reason that they're doing this, and this is so effed up, I can't even begin to tell you. If they are your first, you never forget your first. You never forget your first. You don't. I will never forget my first ever. And he was a good friend of mine in college. And I'm so thankful he was my first. And thank God, you know. So you never forget your first. They never want you to forget them. It's an ego thing. It's absolutely an ego thing, and it will color your sexual encounters from there on out until you get that handled and dealt with and worked through and put the anger and the shame back onto the abuser. So that's why they do that. They want to be your first because you never forget your first. You don't. You know, that's an important milestone. And the bullshit stories that targets of abuse have told me of what their abuser have told them was, oh, well, I'm safe and I'll make it safe for you and it will be a wonderful experience. And, you know, you want your first time to be what? I'm sorry. You're the parent or you're the step parent. You're still that is so messed up. So that's the reason they do that, is because they want you to never forget them. That's one of the best ways to keep them up here forever. It's evil. It's absolutely evil. And this is, it just, oh God. So they do this as a means to control you from the grave. They do this as a means to continue to have them in your head forever and ever. Amen. And especially with sexuality. Sexuality is hugely important. It is a huge part of our lives. We are human beings. This is part of who we are. This is how we feel. This is how we express love. This is how we express desire. This is how we express ourselves. It's an expression of who we are. And so what better way to never make us ever forget them than to force us into having sex with them so that they are our first. It's messed up, and it happens more often than you would even suspect. I mean, it's truly crazy. I mean, like insane crazy. Okay, so that is why they do that. So what they do is, wow. So they do that, and then they make us feel ashamed because we've got the societal thing against, you know, incest and things like that. So it's not us, guys. If you were a victim of incest by a step parent or by a parent, it's not you. I cannot say that strongly enough. It is not you. You're not the problem. You're not sick. You're not damned. You're not anything, okay? The shame, the blame, the weirdness belongs to the abuser. Okay, and I cannot say this enough. If you have been the target of sexual abuse from a step parent, from a parent, please, 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 please get into therapy. Get into therapy. You need to work that stuff through, and you need to put the shame back where it belongs, which is with the abuser, not with you. That is not your cross to bear. It is not. Totally not your cross to bear. So, oh boy. So, okay. So, step parents especially try to get away with that because their lie to themselves is, well, I'm not blood, so therefore it's okay. That's how they rationalize it. So remember, when you're dealing with an abuser, they rationalize, they justify, they excuse, and they make, you know, stories up that make it okay for them to do what they are doing, basically. So I would strongly suggest getting with a therapist and working through this trauma. And it is a trauma. It is, because it has colored the rest of your sexual life. So get with a good therapist. The other thing I would suggest is Ptsd From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Amazing book, and it helps you put the anger and the shame back on the abuser where it belongs. It does not belong with you. You are innocent. You were innocent. You are absolved. Okay? This was not your fault. This was your abuser's fault. And especially what I see predators do is that they go after the kids that are younger teenagers, you know, or just prepubescent kind of thing. And when you're a child, you're told that, you know, you don't argue with your adults, you don't be disrespectful to the adults, you don't question, you just obey. And that's what authoritarian parents do, and that's what narcissists do, is that they demand absolute obeying to their every whim, their every demand, their every this, their every that. And younger kids fall for that because that's what they fall into. The other sad part of this equation is that the other parent didn't protect you. And oftentimes what you will find is that they were a target of abuse as well. Does not excuse it. Does not excuse it. Certainly explains it, but it does not excuse it. They were a target of abuse as well, and they were afraid of standing up to the abuser, the stepdad, the real dad, the whatever, and they allowed the abuse to continue and to happen, and they did nothing. That does not absolve them. They should have had your back, which is why I keep saying you have to heal that internal wound, that inner child, that original thing that happened, that trauma. And that you need to re-raise yourself, basically. When you have been sexually molested by a step-parent, a parent, a sibling, somebody else, a bully, anybody, you got to heal that age that it happened. So that's why I'm saying the Inner Child Workbook, either by John Bachman or by Catherine Taylor. There are two, actually there's more than two. There's a whole slew of them out there, guys. You find one that works for you. You find one that works for you and you get it and you start working it, because that's what's going to help you the most. Okay, so what they will do is they will use the authoritarian, the authoritative thing, and try to make it so that their word is law. You have to obey them. The spouse, the other spouse, whether it's male or female, didn't stand up and protect you. So the whole thing about inner child work is what you're doing is you're going back and you're working on that age range that you were when you were being molested. And what you're doing is you're re-raising yourself. You, in your head, become your own parent. You're your own mom, your own dad, and you have your own back. So when I work with my clients, what I do is some guided imagery. And I have them go back, you know, call their little inner child to them. Like, how old did you feel when you felt like you were helpless? How old did you feel when, you know, this event happened in your life? Or how old were you when this event happened in your life? And what I'll do is have the client call that age of them to them in their guided imagery. And then I will have them have a conversation with that age that they were. And I'm like, you're the parent now. You're the mom. You're the dad. You're it. You need to let your inner child know you've got their back and that they will never be abused by anybody ever again, because you will kick their ass, okay? So, and it's funny because when you do that, oftentimes what ends up happening is that the client will start accessing those emotions and start crying and start releasing it and start getting it out and start realizing, hey, I'm an adult. I'm not 6. I can take care of myself. I don't have to be a victim. Okay, so when people start playing the victim, it's generally because they are stuck in the age range that they were when they were victimized. So that's why I'm saying original wound, original wound, original wound. You've got to figure out what the original wound is, and you've got to start working on it. Okay, hold on. Yeah, the so-called healthy parent was just as guilty. You bet, because they allowed it to happen. Abso-freaking-lutely. So, okay, so where was I? Inner child. Okay, so you go back and you heal those ages that you were when you were being abused. That is what the inner child work is. And here's the thing, and Cheryl, you've got an absolutely valid point. It's like, sometimes in really dysfunctional families, the one parent will leave and leave the kid with the really, really messed up dysfunctional one. And then that poor kid is having to fend for themselves at a very young age, trying to defend against a narcissist or a sociopath or a psychopath. So you have to understand, the people that engage in that kind of behavior, they're really crazy. They're like dangerous. They're like psychopaths, sociopaths, you know, the whole thing. Somebody asked me, what's the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath? There is no difference, guys. It's all terminology. It's all what is politically correct. So we used to call people psychopaths. Now we call them antisocial. Basically, it's the same thing. What it is somebody who does not value or believe that the rules apply to them. And that's usually a dark triad. That's usually the psychopathy, the narcissism, and the Machiavellianism, the need for control. So, yeah, so the parent who did not protect you is equally culpable for your issues. And oftentimes what we do, because we're so desperate to have at least one sane parent, is that we build up the other parent like they're saint whoever. But the reality of it is they weren't, because they didn't protect you. So you need to work on those issues with that parent as well. So oftentimes it's easier to access the issues with the most damaging parent because it's the most apparent. But when you finally start pulling the layers of the onion away, you recognize, hey, I wasn't protected. Nobody protected me? What the actual? Why didn't my mom or my dad protect me from the abuse? So I would strongly recommend getting with a therapist, and I would strongly recommend either EMDR or you can do cognitive behavioral. And I'm going to warn you, it's going to trigger the living crap out of you. You're going to have dreams. You are. When you start working on this stuff, when you start working on the original wound, when you start working on the sexual abuse you went through as a kid, you are going to have dreams about it. It is going to come out in your subconscious. Why? Well, that's one of the safer places that we work things through. That's how our brain starts processing stuff. So you also want to be very careful, and I want to bring this up. You also want to be very careful of any therapists that are like, let's do hypnosis. I am not a fan of hypnosis. I think it can work if you're trying to quit smoking, but you want to be careful of false memories. Now, when a client comes to me and says, I absolutely remember this, I believe them. But if a client comes to me and goes, I'm not sure, then I'm like, okay, then if you're not sure, then we're not even going to go down that route until you know for sure whether this really happened or not. And 9 times out of 10, it didn't. So you want to be careful of false memories. You want to be careful of anybody who leads you, kind of thing. And when I do the guided imagery, I let the client lead me. They are the ones who bring up the topics. They are the ones who brings up what needs to be healed, what needs to be worked on. And that's what you've got to be careful of. So there is that. Okay. And again, I am not getting my comments. What the heck, unless I click on that. Sometimes this computer, I'm telling you. Okay. All right. So there is that. Now, the other question I got, the other really serious question I got, well, let me finish up this topic. So with a step parent, with a parent, it is their issue. They are the ones that have got some serious damage going on if they are acting out sexually with a child, okay? So, and I'm just going to share something. So, and this is in my other book. Oh, where did it go? Here we go. What's wrong with your dad? Hello, got about 4 hours? So I talk about how my dad sexually molested me. He absolutely had some very inappropriate behavior, some very inappropriate thoughts, some very inappropriate things that he did with me. And my mom did nothing. She did nothing to protect me at all. And it was because she was being abused by him as well. And she had no way to speak up for herself because she was operating and probably on the level of about a 4 or 5 year old because she had been molested by her grandfather, her step grandfather. So for her, this was normalized behavior. So, so there that is. So when something like that happens, you have to work on both parents because both parents are culpable for what is going on. This is more common than we talk about. And this is why I'm doing this show, because incest happens, guys. It happens. It happens around the globe. It happens all the time, and it happens more than we talk about, and it needs to be talked about. So when you watch the news and you see stories like this couple in California that had the, kids that were kept as slaves, and there was incest going on, and there were babies that were born that were the dads, and the blah, 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 blah. This happens. It happens in very, very, very dysfunctional families. And part of the reason why it is so rampant and why it is happening is because people don't talk about it, because there's too much shame, because there's too much fear, because there's too much shame. And we need to have a national dialogue on this particular topic, because this is what abusers do. And as all of you guys know, there are a lot of abusers out there. More than is being reported. Why? Because psychopaths and true narcissists do not go seek help. And if they seek help, they stay in therapy until the therapist goes, and what is your part in this? And then they're peace the fuck out. So this is why stuff does not get reported. This is why you have to understand this is more rampant than anybody is even aware of. And this is why I am speaking up and out on this topic. It happens. And it is never the fault of the target of abuse, which is why I get so angry when somebody tells their story and they're either not believed or they're poo-pooed or they're told it's their fault. Oh God. So I had someone a few years ago who was molested by their father, and they were like, oh, I shouldn't have worn this. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have gone out looking for his approval. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm looking at her going, you did nothing wrong. You absolutely did nothing wrong. This person could contain themselves. They're an adult. It's not like every male walking on the face of the planet is just a mindless sex machine waiting to pounce. You know, it's like, it's a choice. And that person chose to abuse. That person chose to molest. That person chose to do harm. So it's never the target's fault. But what ends up happening is that the target feels guilty. The target feels shameful, because we do have a societal prohibition on incest. And unfortunately, we also in this country, I don't know about other countries, but in this country, we tend to blame the victim. We do victim blaming, which is bull-tinky. So I pulled up a really good article out of Psychology Today called Oedipus Wrecked. It's a really good article. It is from July 1999, 1993, something like that. It's kind of old. But the cool thing of it was it was talking about, again, even back then, how incest is not the normal state, which is what abusers will also tell their targets of abuse. Oh, this is normal. This is natural. This is, you know, this is the way it should be. I need to protect you. I need to have you have a good time. Blah, 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 blah. And that also sibling rivalry is not normal either. So now we're going to go into this whole topic. So Freud had it wrong. No surprise there. Don't get me started. I do not like Freud. I think he's a jerk. So Freud got it wrong. Incest is not natural. It does not occur a lot in the natural world, meaning animals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he was trying to say it was. But again, Freud was raised by a nanny, so what does he know? And they did do a correlation between a dysfunctional, abusive family ending up having a higher rate of incest than a family that did not have dysfunction or abuse, et cetera. So, so there is that. Hold on, let me check the comments again. I don't know why this thing is not scrolling. Drives me crazy. Oh my gosh. What about the case where the victim is a toddler too young to be interviewed? How to get information about what happened and build a case to file custody? The abuser, whoa, that got really big. How did that happen? I don't know. The abuser, father of the child, but not married to the mother, took a lie detector test and passed. Is it possible? Psychopaths can pass a lie detector test. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but they have ice running in their veins. They know how to fool a lie detector. Everybody thinks that the lie detector tests are somehow infallible. They are not. They are not. If you are a true psychopath, if you really have absolutely no remorse and you do not think that what you did was wrong, you will pass. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's just the way it is. That is what they do. So when you're dealing with a toddler, it's really hard because they're pre-verbal, you know. And honestly, I am not a forensics psychologist, so you would probably need to get a hold of somebody who specializes in forensics and dealing with sexual abuse cases and things like that. I do know that ASU has a forensics person. I believe her name is Jill Messing. So, and she charges a shit ton of money. So, and I can understand why, because having to listen to those stories would be very disturbing. So that might be a place to start, is to get a hold of Jill Messing at ASU. She is a forensics person that deals in custody cases and domestic violence and abuse. So, or you can contact your university in your area and see what they say, and see if they have a forensics person that can do that. I don't know, because children are not my thing, guys. I work with teens and up. So, okay, there is that. Okay. All right. So, all right. Where was I? Okay. So the parent, this, that. Okay. And it's super confusing for the target of abuse, because in families, your survival depends on your parents when you're little. So there is that sense of either loyalty or love to the parent, even if they're the abuser, because they're feeding you, they're clothing you, they're sheltering you kind of thing. There's that fear, obligation, and guilt going on. And so there is this dynamic, this, you know, pulling opposites of, I hate this person for having abused me, but they're my parent. Da fuck. So that's what makes it so confusing for the target of abuse, which is why I'm saying it is so vital to get in with a really good therapist who understands sexual trauma, who maybe does EMDR. I strongly suggest that, or who understands CBT, can work you through the mistaken thoughts, the mistaken beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. There are also books out there on incest and on sexual abuse. Go look them up on Amazon. There's lots and lots of good stuff. And realize as you work through this, you are going to get triggered. You absolutely are 110% going to be triggered. You're going to feel things, you're going to think things, you're going to remember things, and that's normal. That is what happens. Hang on just a second. Yeah, so when a parent dies, okay, this is a good question, Cheryl. When a parent dies that has been sexually abusive, okay, or any kind of abusive, mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, religiously, or otherwise, when that parent dies, you are going to feel a plethora of emotions. You're going to feel relief. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel sadness. You're going to feel like, if only. You're going to feel, all sorts of stuff. So when my dad died, we were all sitting around the kitchen table and we were, talking about stories about him. And unfortunately, none of them were happy stories. They were all like, him beating my brother because my brother scattered rocks in the driveway, which was all made of rocks. Don't ask. Anyway, and finally, the saddest thing that my brother said was, I'll never get his approval. That's it. It's game over. I'll never get his approval. And that just broke my heart. I mean, literally broke my heart, because it was like, that's it. That's it. It's like, that's all any of us ever wanted was his approval, even though we all knew he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and we knew he was crazy, and we knew he was damaging and harmful and this and that and the other thing, but he was also still our parent. And that is the hard thing that kids, little kids go through when they are dealing with domestic violence, is because they know mom or dad, whoever the abuser is crazy and is dangerous and is frightening and is abusive, but it's still their parent, and they've got this torn in two feeling about them. And that's why it's really, really important to get with a good therapist to help deal with those dichotomized feelings. Those are normal, guys. When you're in that situation, there's going to be a part of you that loves them, and there's going to be a part of you that absolutely freaking hates them, and that's okay. It's okay to speak ill of the dead. It's okay to speak ill of the dead. I cannot say that enough. When an abuser dies, it really is more of a whew, thank God, than it is a boo-hoo-hoo. Not every death is a boo-hoo-hoo, and not every birth is a celebration, as the Buddhists love to say. So it is really important that you validate what you are feeling, and it's okay with it. It's okay to speak ill of the dead, especially if the dead were abusive assholes. Seriously. Okay. Yeah, people can pass lie detector tests. Absolutely. Okay. So getting back to what I was talking about. Okay. So what is going on is that the abuser has probably been molested themselves. There's a reason why they attack certain age ranges. And what you'll notice is in people that are prone to do that, they have an age range that is their age range that they like. Some like the little kids, some like the preteens, some like the teenagers, okay? And it's wherever their damage happened. That's probably the time period that they themselves were molested. Does not excuse it, but it does kind of explain it. Hold on a second. So with my dad, here's the weird thing. He molested each one of my sisters and me. But he waited until we were 13, 14. So whatever weirdness happened with him probably happened at age 13 or 14 with him. And he waited until we were that old. And thank God he did, because I was verbal enough to be like, I don't think so, motherfucker. Have a nice day. So, and the sad thing of it was, is this is back in the 80s when I started talking about it. I told my parents, or my mom, and she was actually there at one of the events that he, tried to inappropriately kiss me. And she kept saying, oh, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. I'm like, how exactly am I supposed to take a French kiss by a father? That was meant. Sorry. So, they deny. Denial is deadly. Denial is deadly. So when the abuse is going on, the child tries to speak out, because kids are always told, if something's going on, tell somebody. So I told teachers, you know what they did? Goose egg. You know why? The paperwork involved. I actually have heard from some people say, I know we're mandated to report, but I don't want to because it's a lot of stuff and I don't want to get involved. And what if I get sued and blah, 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 blah. okay, you know what? I would rather deal with the suing and the bullshit like that than to live with knowing that I allowed an abuser to continue to abuse. There is that. That really cheeses me off when people use that as the excuse for not reporting. So I have people contacting me going, well, I know this is going on. What do I do? You contact CPS. You contact Child Protective Services. You contact Department of Children's Services. I don't even know what it's called in all the different states. But you contact whatever service agency there is to get that kid protected. And you let them do the investigation. It is not up to you to provide the evidence. If you suspect, even suspect, that there is child abuse going on, you call. You absolutely call. It's just like when somebody threatens suicide. You don't wait to see if they do it. You call the crisis team and say, this person at this address has told me they're going to kill themselves. Can you please do a wellness check? And it's the same thing with CPS. Look, I suspect that there is abuse going on. We see this, and this. Can you please go check it out? That's what you do. Okay, so oftentimes there are signs and symptoms that the abuser is got a predilection to this. Oh, backing up. So, okay, back up. So with an abuser, we're going from incest back to the sexual abuse that an abuser will do. What an abuser will do is they will make their target of abuse feel dirty, awful, horrible, terrible, that they're, a nymphomaniac, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the target of abuse will then be forced to find some sort of outlet for their sexuality, or they will feel so shamed that they'll just give up sex altogether. And so sometimes the target of abuse will turn to porn because there's no outlet, or they will start seriously considering leaving the relationship and finding an outside partner to get their needs met. And also not a good idea, because then the abuser will use that as their excuse to abuse you even more, claiming that you're the one that has been cheating when it's them. Yeah, it's a really messed up situation. So, but abusers that abuse their kids are oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes involved in some sort of porn type of thing, like really serious kind of stuff. So there is that. And it's not always, but I'll tell you something, the abuser will use that. If the person is watching or looking at porn, they'll use that as more shaming to be like, well, you're sick, you're this, you're that, you're blah, 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 blah. Never acknowledging that they've cut them off from sex. So there is that as well. And so I have also seen narcissistic mothers do this to their sons. So there is such a thing as emotional incest as well. I know, it's a thing. So what the mothers will do, and the fathers do this too, what they'll do is that they will overshare their lives, especially their sex lives, to their children, or they'll overshare what is going on in the relationship. They'll use the kid as a therapist, and suddenly the kid is now becoming an emotional support. And that is not what children are for. They should not be involved in any of this stuff. So if there is stuff going on in the relationship, the last person you should be telling is your children. You need to be telling a therapist. Absolutely. So they turn the child into a spouse, emotionally speaking, which is never a good thing. And again, I cannot get my comments to come up. What is going on? There we go. Okay. All right. I do not do EMDR. No, I do not. I am simply talk therapy. I do CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. And somebody's saying that EMDR is extremely helpful in dealing with trauma. And yes, it is. Absolutely. Okay. I do have a hard time not thinking about all the times my exes abuses me. So, okay. All right. So what we got to do when we are dealing with trauma is this fine line, this tightrope walk of acknowledging, not denying, acknowledging, validating, working through, but not obsessing on. And it's really hard, especially when it was sexual abuse, because that is a part of who we are. We are human beings. We are sexual, so that's why I'm saying you got to get with a good therapist so that you learn how to walk that line of being able to talk about the trauma without reliving it, which is why I like EMDR, or being able to talk about the trauma, understanding that it's not your fault, CPT, the thoughts and beliefs are mistaken and they really belong to the abuser. and not punishing yourself and not obsessing over it. It takes practice, guys. It does. And so like when thoughts come up, when uncomfortable thoughts come up, you have a choice. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. Everybody's like, oh, I can't help it. I'm like, bullshit. Yes, you can. So here's the deal. When a thought comes up that we do not need to deal with, like really don't need to deal with, like it's something really disturbing, really upsetting, and we're somewhere where we have to be and we can't deal with this thought at this moment, but this thought is like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. That's when you go, hello, thought. I see you. Yes, I acknowledge you. And no, I am not inviting you in for coffee. Go bye-bye. I'll deal with you later. And then you deal with it later at a different time. That's what journaling is for. You journal stuff out. You get it out of your head. You get it onto paper. You trot it out to the barbecue. You read it out loud once if you are so inclined, and then you burn it. I like burning things. A little pyro here. So anyway, that's that. So it's a fine line of dealing with the thought, but not allowing the thought to control you. So you are the master of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not the master of you. And this is where people get screwed up, is because they're like, oh, I can't help it. I can't help it. I think these thoughts, and they just pop up. Okay, yeah, they're going to pop up. You don't want to resist them, because remember, when you resist something, it persists. So in other words, a nasty thought pops up. Pink elephant taking a shit in the corner of the living room. Oh my God, I don't want to think about the pink elephant. I'm not thinking about the, I'm not thinking about the, I'm not thinking about the pink elephant. I'm not thinking about the, what am I thinking about the whole time? The pink elephant. So what you want to do is go, pink elephant. Yep, motherfucker, I see you. Yep, you're there. And guess what? I am not dealing with you right now, but I am going to deal with you later. Go to your room. Seriously. And then you deal with it later on your timetable when you want to, with your journal, and then you burn it and you make it go bye-bye, bye-bye now, bye-bye. Does that make sense? So yeah, it takes practice, and that's why you need to get with a therapist to help you, because these thoughts can be overwhelming. Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay. My ex built the picture, what kind of family, wife, kids he wants, and he wanted everything to be this way. If I wouldn't meet his expectations, he will rage and kick me out. Does this sound like psychopathy? He now lives in his created imaginary world. Okay, that's good point, Greta. So what they do is magic thinking. And this is something I definitely wanted to talk about, is that, again, like I said, they will convince themselves that their version of reality is the correct one, and that they are right. And I really sometimes hate this computer. And that they are that what they're doing is right. So it's called magic thinking. So magic thinking is like when a little kid, this is the best way I can describe it. Like when a little kid pulls up a blanket and goes, if I don't see the monsters don't see me, right? Well, that's not true. If you've got a blanket over your head, the monster's going to see you, okay? But that's little magic thinking. So with narcissists, that sounds more like narcissism. It could be psychopathy, and I don't know, because I don't have them in front of me, so I really couldn't tell you. But what I can tell you is narcissists have perfect pictures, as do addicts. Really interesting. So everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. The relationship has to be perfect. The food has to be perfect. The kids have to be perfect. How dare they have their own little opinions and yell and scream and play and do what kids do? You know, one of the things my dad always said was, children and women are to be barefoot. You know, women are to be barefoot and pregnant. Children and women are to be seen and not heard. I'm sorry, what? What century are you from? Neanderthal? Hello, what the fuck? Yeah, that's what they do. And alcoholics also have this, it has to be perfect, everything has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, oh my God, they come unfucking hinged. Okay? That's why they rage when you say no to sex. And we're going to talk more about that. Because in their mind, they've already decided how it's going to go. They've had a perfect picture. They have a perfect way of how it's going to go. And then when it doesn't happen, they become enraged. So it's like a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. So with addicts that are seriously into their addiction, and with narcissists, okay, everything has to be perfect. Why? Because they are the least perfect people walking the face of the planet. And so in their messed up minds, if everything around them is perfect, then they must be perfect. See where I'm going with that? So it's perfect pictures, and they're not real and they're not true. And when reality comes in, again, cognitive dissonance for the abuser is that when reality comes in, they blow up, they get angry, they're going to try to force it to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's not their fault, it's your fault. Whereas with cognitive dissonance with an abused person, the target of abuse, instead of getting angry, what we do is we turn it in on ourselves and we go, oh, it must be my fault. I did something wrong. Why didn't I do it this way? Oh, geez, maybe I should have said this, or maybe I could have done that, or maybe da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, as opposed to what the abusers do, which is to outside. They direct outside, abused people targets direct inside, if that makes any sort of sense. So yeah, they are very caught up in perfect pictures. And okay, so going back to abusers who demand sex, oh Lord. So abusers will also use religious texts to say, well, we're married, therefore I have the right to rape you anytime I want. No, you don't. It doesn't work that way, sorry. And they will use that as an excuse to have sex with their spouse, or anybody for that matter. I cannot tell you the number of times religious texts have been taken out of context to support abuse by abusers. And it's funny to me because it's like, if you really read the whole thing, whether it is the Quran or the Bible or the Torah or anything else, you will see that that is not the case and that they have taken it out of context. So, all right. Where am I? A network of therapists who understand narc abuse. I'm thinking of getting a t-shirt that says, I've survived a narcissist, want to talk? I love it. Yeah, for sure. For shizzle. Okay. Yeah, reporting to school counselors. They are mandated to report. So let me just clue you in. Let me educate you guys. Teachers, doctors, nurses, school counselors, police officers, obviously. Those are all state mandated reporters. So when abuse is reported, you are mandated to report. And if you do not report, and it turns out that you can prove that somebody came and told you about the abuse and you did jack shit, there you go. Now, the caveat is you have to know where they are and how to report it. So if, for example, somebody goes onto YouTube and says, oh, there's this abuse happening right here, right now, I'm like, okay, well, that's terrible. And you need to report it to your state's CPS, DPS, whatever, because I don't know where you are. I don't know what's going on. And even if you told me, I would still say, you're in another state. This is who you need to get a hold of. This is what you need to do. Does that make sense? I mean, I can call 911 and put in a 911 call and, give them the information I have, but that's all I can do. So you need to report to your local authorities, okay? And all of these people should be reporting. And if they're not reporting, you effing turn them in, period. There's no excuse for a teacher to not report. This whole bullshit about, oh, it's too much paperwork. Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. Yeah, I have been on hold with CPS for 2+ fucking hours, and I will do it again if I need to, because I have to sleep with myself at night, and so should you. So do you see where I'm going with that? It's like, so what? So it's paperwork. So what? So when you die, are you going to be able to go to your maker and go, yeah, God, I just didn't report it because it was too much paperwork? I'm sorry. That doesn't fly. That doesn't fly with me. I doubt it's going to fly with your maker. So there we go. Okay. The state drops the ball on these investigations. Yeah, they do. It's horrible. It's terrible. CPS in Arizona sucks ass. And that's why they changed their name to Department of Children's Services. Like a name change is going to make it better. I'm sorry. You call a pink elephant Harold, it's still a pink elephant. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they don't always do the right thing. But here's the deal. You are one person, you do what you can. It really is their job to investigate. It is their job to figure out if there is abuse going on or not. And oftentimes what happens is abusers will claim that there is abuse going on. They will call CPS on the spouse that is not abusive and claim that there's stuff going on. And in the cases that I've had to deal with, thankfully, this DPS, Department of Children's Services, DCS, oh, whatever the fuck it's called, was able to figure out that the abusive parent was the one that was the abuser, not the one that they were claiming was the abuser. So that's why it's important to get another set of eyes on it, because abusers tend to be pretty magic thinking. Getting back to that, sorry, got off track. So magic thinking, they justify what they're doing, and in their mind, if they say it's true, it's true. Which is crazy, because it's like, okay, well, I can say that Gerard Butler is going to drop in on my lap at any second now. It's not going to happen because A, I don't know Gerard Butler, and B, I'm married. So, but in their mind, it's like, well, if I say it, then it's true. This is a true statement, and this is exactly how it's going to go down. That's that perfect picture. That's that magic thinking. So they think in their mind that if they present enough of a sob story to the court, or if they present enough of a sob story to DPS, DCS, Department of Children's Services, that the court will automatically believe it because why? They're them. Yeah, it's magic thinking. It's totally magic thinking. It's like the courts need proof. The courts need evidence, as does DCS. if that makes any sort of sense. So the magic thinking goes along with the whole sexual abuse as well, because in their mind, they've justified it. And so in their mind, this is exactly how it needs to be. And when it does not get met, when somebody resists, when somebody says no, oh, let's talk about fawning. Okay. When they don't get their way, they get angry, they get violent. So what a lot of, and some men do this too, what a lot of female abuse targets do is fawn. So let's talk about fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, okay? Fight, obviously you fight back. You go, screw you, I'm not doing this, get off of me, I'm not interested, I'm gonna call the cops, I'm gonna tell my teacher, I'm gonna do whatever, okay? Flight, you leave, book out. I left home when I was 17 because I was like, y'all are crazy and I can do better on my own. Have fun with that. Fight, flight, freeze. Freezing is where you just freeze and oh my God, I don't know what to do. Holy crap, that's freezing. Fawning is when you give in to the abuse. So in your mind, you don't continue to be abused. It doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. Fawning is the most dangerous thing you can do. I mean, it depends on the situation, but how do I explain? Oh God. Okay. Let's say it's a rape scenario. Okay. Sometimes that is your only option, is to just give in because they're going to kill you otherwise. Okay, great. That's when you do it. And in abuse situations, yes, there are times when fawning is going to save your life. However, you then need to get the fuck out, because now that you've fawned, now that you've given in to the abuser will do it over and over and over and escalate and escalate and escalate and make it more and more dangerous. They'll graduate from raping to choking. They'll graduate from that to something else that is life-threatening, okay? That's why fawning is so dangerous. I mean, yes, it works in the moment, you know, if it's a one-time thing, and then you get through it, you survive it, you get out, you work on it. But if you're in an abusive relationship and you've started fawning, it's going to continue to escalate because they're sadists. They are sadists. They enjoy the fear, they enjoy the pain, they enjoy the look of terror on the target's face. That's part of what they get off on, okay? Because remember, we're dealing with dark triads. We're dealing with psychopath, narcopath, Machiavellian, and they get off on the look of fear in the target's face. So fawning is going to work for a little bit, but it's not going to serve you in the long run. In the long run, you've got to get the fuck out. If you're having to fawn to get through a relationship, get out. It's dangerous. Okay. Okay. Yeah, too much paperwork. Danish police. Yeah, I've heard that before too. That's really scary. Oh, that's really sad, Knit. I'm so sorry. That really sucks. Yeah, there. Okay, Shannon, good point. So whenever you are dealing with somebody in a position of power, and I talked about this in the Q&A session I did, you're going to possibly be dealing with a narcissist. So teachers, believe me, I've run into some narcissistic teachers that I was like, A, get out of my profession. B, get out of being a teacher. C, you're a scumbag. D, go away. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they had no business being a teacher, okay, a mentor. So yeah, you will find in any position of power, like judges, lawyers, I'm sorry, they're filled with narcissists. That's why it's so important that when you go to get a divorce in a high conflict or a high conflict custody, either a high conflict divorce or a high conflict custody case, you interview that attorney as solidly as you would interview a therapist. Do they understand high conflict custody? Do they understand high conflict divorce? Are they adept at dealing with emotional manipulation on the part of the other attorney? So yeah, I mean, you are going to find narcissists in position of power. They are attracted to it because they like having life and death over other people. Crazy. I mean, really, truly crazy. So yeah, you will find people that don't want to hear it. So Lord. So when I wrote my first book, I had an entertainment attorney look it over, who shall remain nameless. And they absolutely came unglued and told me what a piece of crap I was. How dare I write this, da 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 da. And I went, oh, struck a chord. So do you see where I'm going with this? So when you are reporting abuse, there is a really good possibility that they themselves are a narcissist. If they don't believe you, you find somebody who does. You keep going down the line until you find somebody who's not an abuser, okay? And you scream it to the mountaintops what's going on. You don't be quiet. Abuse thrives in silence. And abuse thrives in darkness. And that's what the abuser wants. Why do you think they've isolated you from everybody? Why do you think that they don't want you talking to a therapist? Why do you think that they don't want you to tell your family and friends what's really going on? Why do you think that they tell you what to tell your family and friends about them? Because they don't want the truth to come out. But the truth eventually will. It always does. And it's so funny because somebody was like, well, how can you be so sure? And I'm like, well, because I've seen it. It does not happen immediately. It may not happen in your lifetime. But I, again, as a Christian and as a Buddhist, I firmly believe the truth will always come out, either this lifetime or the next. I'm not really worried about it. Not my job. Not my job. It'll come out. There you go. You got to let that go. You got to let that go because their karma is their karma and you let them suffer it and you just go do you. Go do you. Go be awesome. That's it. Okay. All right. So yeah, in the 50s and 60s, there really wasn't any mandated reporting, etc. So, but now there is, so there's no excuse. Okay. Mothers do this with daughters as well. Yes. So this is another stereotype that I want to bust. So when I talk about abuse, people automatically assume I'm talking about a male. I'm not. It can be female. It can be a mother that's abusive to the son, a mother that's abusive to the daughter, a mother that's abusive to the spouse, a mother that, it can be all combinations. It can be female, it can be male. Here's the thing, guys. When I say that there's a narcissist handbook, and I talked about this on Wednesday when I was doing my little Q&A session, there literally is a narcissist handbook, and it doesn't matter whether the narcissist is male or female. It does not matter whether they are young or old. It does not matter if they are here in the United States or if they are over in Pakistan or India or Timbuktu or wherever. It's like they follow the same amounts of abuse. They do. They do the exact same plays. They say the exact same things, no matter where they are in the world. And the abuse can be from a mom to a daughter. The abuse can be from a dad to a son. You bet. It doesn't, abuse is abuse is abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So yeah, absolutely. And what I see in the abusive relationships with the daughters is that the mom will often, if they are a really dark triad, they will do the helplessness thing. They will do the learned helplessness. And then the daughter becomes like a slave to the mom and has to take care of them and has to do everything for them and has to, literally wipe their ass. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird what the narcissist does to the daughter. And sons and dads in that relationship, it's a lot of emasculating. It's a lot of, you're not good enough. You're not a man. You're not this. You're not that. It's really horrible. It's horrible what I see these people do to their kids. So yeah, that's absolutely true. It can be male, it can be female, it can be between a mom and a daughter, a son and a dad, you bet. So now back to sibling incest. All right, so I told you there's okay. So when a child acts out sexually, okay, they have been molested. They have absolutely been molested. I can guarantee it. Kids do not pop out of the womb being sexual. We don't. That doesn't even come into play until the hormones start hitting and we start noticing the opposite sex and all of that sort of stuff. So when a child is acting out sexually, I can guarantee you they're being molested in some way, shape, or form, or have been molested in some way, shape, or form. So denial is deadly because what I see a lot of these parents do, both male and female, is that they don't want to admit or deal with the fact that their partner is a molester. They don't want to admit or deal with the fact that their partner is an abuser, that they've picked wrong. And it's their ego. It's their ego that gets in the way. The ego is the one that stops them from preventing the other person from harming, and they don't want to acknowledge or deal, and so they go into denial. So when there is sibling incest going on, it's generally because one or both have been molested and they're acting out and they don't know what to do with it. So what kids do is they're very physical in their way of dealing with things. So for example, and I've used this example before and I'm going to talk about it again. When I worked at the New Song Center and when I worked up in Oregon at the grief clinic up there, when you would tell a child, like a small child, like 10 and below, hey, grandma's dead. Just wanted to let you know she died this morning. She passed peacefully in her sleep, whatever. The kid will generally look at mom and dad and go, oh, okay, can I go play? And mom and dad are like, what the fuck? But that's how kids process. Kids don't have the cognitive ability to sit down and go, I think, therefore I am, okay? They're very physical. So what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll play really hard. They'll act things out. They'll play. They'll do sand tray stuff. They'll, bury stuff in the sand and try to figure out the funeral and the whole thing. And then they'll come back and start processing it emotionally as they get older, okay? Kids are very physical. Kids work things out physically first, then they start processing things on an emotional level. That's just the developmental stage. So when a child is acting out sexually, they're acting out because it's been done to them and they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, seriously. And so when you see things in siblings, it's because one or both of the siblings have been abused or are being abused and or one of the siblings has been abused and they're acting it out on the other sibling trying to process what was happening. So that's what that is. My son was assaulted by a cousin who was also a small child. I would assume that the cousin was probably molested by an adult. Yeah, absolutely. Or by another kid. The kids closed the case calling it child's play instead of figuring out which adult it was stemming from. Very upsetting. Ugh. I think you're right that the police or other authorities just don't want the paperwork. Yeah, and that's why you've got to be a screaming Mimi. You have got to be on top of this stuff. You've got to be, the squeaky wheel gets oiled. The squeaky wheel gets oiled. I swear to God, it does. And especially, this is why I love social media. You go to social media. You start saying, hey, this happened and nothing was done. What the actual? And pretty soon things start changing because of shame. They don't want to be pointed out for not being proactive and keeping the community safe and all that sort of good stuff. Look, guys, police and CPS, DSC, whatever the fuck it's called now, work for us. If they are not doing their job, you shame them. You absolutely, because we are paying them to do a job. And if they are not doing it, you call it out. Abso-fucking-lutely, you betcha. Same with the police. If the police are not doing their job, you call it out. You get loud. Will there be consequences? That word. Yeah, there may be. But again, it's the whistleblower syndrome. And again, you just keep doing it until it's very obvious what's going on. So you cannot live in fear, guys, especially when we are protecting small ones, especially when we are protecting children, when we are protecting somebody vulnerable, if we're protecting somebody who is being abused, an elder abuse, holy shit. So sexual abuse also happens amongst the elderly as well. The nursing homes are filled with elders that are being abused by the caregivers there. So that's why when you put somebody into a caregiving situation, you want to double check 10 ways to Sunday who you're turning them over to. And you want to do frequent unannounced visits. And if they demand that you announce your visits, Houston, there's probably a problem. So that is something to think about. I mean, because in the next few years, I think by 2022, a majority of the populace is going to be age 65 and above. So there is going to be a lot of people going into care housing situations or caregiver situations. And that's why you've got to make sure that whoever you turn your loved one over to is going to be safe and protected, because there are a lot of abusers out there in the in that particular world. Why? Because elders have got Alzheimer's, or they've got dementia, which is Alzheimer's, but they've got other issues where they're not going to necessarily speak up, or they've got so much shame that they're not going to speak up, or they don't have family, or they don't. Do you see where I'm going with that? So things that you think about. So things that you must think about. So there is that. Okay. All right. Yeah, the abusers will always, always, always blame the child. They will, always. They'll say, it's because you came on to me. You were too sexual. You were wearing a tank top. You were, whatever. The wind was blowing in the right direction. They will always blame the targets of abuse. The abusers will always blame the child. They will always blame whoever they were abusing, always. And they do that with adults too. Well, you made me. You made me force myself on you because you refuse sex. What? What? Huh? What? No. No, it's choice. Again, there's no making, you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. Not even in hypnosis can you do that. So it's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. They're choosing. They are choosing. And what they're doing is they're blaming, shaming, and guilt tripping. That's what they do. Okay, so let's see. What else did I want to talk about? So in abuse, the thing that kills me, and again, this stupid thing is not letting me scroll. What the actual? With abuse, the thing that kills me is that people don't think of sexual abuse in a marriage as abuse. It's abuse. If the word no is said, it is now rape, period, whether you're married or not. Okay, just because you're married does not give your spouse the right to force themselves on you, period. So in a healthy, normal relationship, that's never going to be an issue because you respect each other. Remember, in a healthy, normal relationship, there is love and there is respect, and love and respect are one and the same. That means you respect each other's needs, wants, feelings, etc., and you are sensitive to that. So an abuser doesn't care. An abuser will just force their issue because they're an abuser. This is what abusers do. They want their way or the highway. And no does not mean anything to them, unfortunately. So one of the questions is what can you do for the kids that have been abused like that? Well, they need to get into therapy. They absolutely need to get in with a therapist. You need to have somebody walk them through this, talk them through this. They're going to have a lot of weird feelings, especially if it was a sibling situation where, like, say a sister was molesting another sister, or a brother was molesting a sister, or a sister was molesting a brother. That kind of thing. Because again, there's going to be those feelings of, well, but they're family. Well, but they're my brother. Well, but they're my sister. And so there's going to be a lot of mixed feelings in there that are going to be very, very confusing to them, that they need somebody to help them walk through that. Does that make sense? So that is that. All right. Okay. So I covered spousal sexual abuse. I've covered sibling sexual abuse. I've covered parent. I started to talk about emotional incest. So going back to that really quickly, what they will do is they will put too much on the child, and they will treat the child like a spouse. So they'll treat, maybe there's not sex going on, but they will treat the child like a spouse. Like, they'll tell them everything that's going on, ask them to make decisions that are really not theirs to make, put too much stuff onto them. That's emotional incest. That's horrible for a child to go through. Putting stuff onto a 9-year-old that a 20-year-old or above should be dealing with is not fair, and it's not okay. But this is what abusers do. And it's a way to keep the person one down. So the other thing I've seen emotional abusers do, emotionally incestuous abusers do, is that they will hobble the child so that they don't ever really able to take care of themselves. So like they lean on the parent like this. So they're never able to like balance a checkbook, keep a job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because the abusive parent keeps sabotaging them so that the child puts all of their attention onto the abusive parent. So that also happens. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to try to get to the comments one more time. Not happening. I don't know what the problem is. This computer, seriously. So that is what I know. I'm going to end this session now because my computer is misbehaving and I'm not quite sure why. So that is that. What I will do is this week I will do another question and answer period when I find time, because I've again gotten a ton of questions from you guys all over the map. I'm not sure what next week's show is going to be on. I'll figure that out when I do my question and answer period. So again, I just wanted to reaffirm to all of you, incest happens. It does. It is way more prevalent than we talk about, and it needs to be talked about. Violence, domestic violence, is not what we think it is. It's not what we think it is. Everybody thinks it's the broken arms and the black eyes and the this and the that. No, it is verbal. It is sexual. It is emotional. It is religious. It is any way you can possibly abuse somebody is domestic violence, guys. It is. And it kills me when I have people call me up or write to me and say, oh, well, it's not bad. It's only verbal. It's only emotional. It's only physical. It's only, sexual. It's only religious. If it's harming you, it's abuse. If it's harming you, it's domestic violence. Period. Get it through your heads. Do they get better? No, they do not. They get worse. As they age, they get worse. So they aren't going to change. You cannot fix them because you did not break them. Please get that through your heads. Please get with a good therapist that can help you work through this trauma. Sexual abuse is real. Incest is real. It happens. Work through it. It's not you. It is the abuser. Put the shame back on the abuser where it belongs, okay? And you want to go no contact with them. You really, truly do, because you don't need that in your life, and you don't need the continuing verbal abuse either. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. So, for tonight, today, whatever, wherever I am. So, please remember, March 23rd, 7 p.m., Tempe, Arizona, I will be at Changing Hands Bookstore talking about my book, You Can Lead a Horse to Water, but you cannot make him do the cha-cha. I'll do about a half an hour or so lecture, and then I'm going to take questions and just sign books. I would love to see you guys there. Also, please go to Eventbrite, Atlanta, Chris Godinez. Look up the events that I have in Atlanta, which is on April 21st. I will be at Postman Books. I'd like to thank Mark Stiles for asking me to come out and do that. Also at Tall Tale Books. So, and those books will be available. I'm shipping those out this week, so they should be having books available this week that you can buy ahead of time. And then also I will be doing a lecture at the Smyrna, God, I hope I'm saying that right, Smyrna, Georgia Community Center from noon to 3, I believe is the time period. And that is it. Would love to see you there. I'll be doing a VIP section where I can meet with 10 of you in person for a small chat, and we can talk about stuff a little bit more in depth, which I'm really looking forward to. And that's it. All right, guys, go have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you for all your questions. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to them. For some reason, my computer is like, doing the weird Watusi without me. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.